define in this country, because sometimes Gen Z themselves or the young people themselves are the ones who will be chaotic in those demonstration, and also they ask for compensation of rights of violation victims, which the president, I think, ended up coming up with a panel of experts to look in that compensation issues, but the court threw that out and said that Kenya National Commission on Human Rights has that mandate to carry out that work. Fight against corruption was another agenda, stoppage of wastage of public resources, and protection of sovereignty, and this is with respect to their so-called abductions that seemed to be happening at the time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for Madam Joan. My friend, what do you understand about the 10-point agenda? Just lay for us something that you know as a Gen Z.
The 10 points agenda, as it was said, it was an agreement between the UDA and the ODM party that was aimed to, to cater for the social, political, and economic crises of the country.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for my friend. Tony, you can jump in a little bit.
Yes, thank you so much. And I want to agree with whatever my friend over there mentioned, that the 10-point agenda was as a result of the what the Gen Zs had been advocating for. And I remember at the time there was a lot of tension and unease, and something needed to be done, because when you look at the protest that the Gen Zs were conducting, first it emanated from the finance bill, but then after that there are also other issues that came into play. And I think the 10-point agenda really captured them very well. Young people really felt that they were excluded, not just in terms of governance, but also economically speaking. We felt that opportunities were indiscriminately scarce. We had got graduates who did not have opportunities. And therefore, for that matter, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, together with the president then, came up with this agreement. And our concern as young people today is, for example, now maybe the progress that has been made, and maybe just to find out whether we've moved ahead. Yes.
Thank you so much, Tony. I don't know if Mwalimu, there's something you might want to add, because your friend has enumerated the 10-point agenda very skillfully.
Absolutely. The 10-point agenda has been with us here for a very long time. It's something that came up immediately after the protests. And we know them. But what is on debate today is, were they implemented? But again, we as experts, we must also ask ourselves, were they all implementable? Because you see, when after every conflict in any nation, people must sit down and come up with an agenda, or come up with something that needs to satisfy both sides of the political divide. And if you look at the NADCO report and the 10-point agenda, you find the NADCO report is number 1 on the 10-point agenda. Yet, some items from that NADCO report are also found on the 10-point agenda as you go down. If you look at that 10-point agenda, about 2 or 3 items are identical. Integrity and fight corruption and so on are almost identical. Again, when you look at that report, there are certain things in that 10-point agenda that are continuous. For example, fighting corruption. There is actually no corruption sitting somewhere and a gunman sitting somewhere to shoot corruption dead, and that is the end of it. So we must appreciate that when we are evaluating the implementation of the 10-point agenda, we must take all that into consideration. Whether everything is implementable, if there is an implementation taking place, and also we understand that some are a continuous process. Of course, in this country, we have 2 political formations. One that is pro-government and one that is anti-government. The one that is anti-government is consisting of many, many groupings, but the agenda is anti-government. And in Africa, if we are against you, even if you say the truth, we don't agree with it. And anything we say about you must not be good. If it is going to be good, we must lie, because that is how we govern in competitions. In competitive politics, that is in democracy, in autocracy, there is no competition. The boss is the boss, and he rules with a rungu and a gun. In democracies, we rule with propaganda. And those who are not in office also have their own enough propaganda against the government of the day. So you, as people who are educated, as somebody said here that her source of information is Instagram. Instagram, whatever is posted there, just like Facebook, X, and all the rest, is each individual's own opinion or ideas. Some of them are manipulated to control you. Some are manipulated to take your opinion in a certain direction. So as you do that, as you get information from the social media, be very careful. First of all, to know whether it is true or false, first of all, look at who has posted it, on which political divide is he. That is enough to give you an idea on how to evaluate the truth or the lie about it. But I told you, in governance, we use a lot of propaganda. Propaganda is not necessarily a lie. Sometimes it is twisted truth. Sometimes it is the truth at the wrong time. Sometimes it's the truth to the wrong audience. Sometimes it is an action attributed to the wrong person. Action attributed to the wrong person is called a false flag attack. False flag attack is when the opposition commits a crime and blames the government, or the government commits a crime and blames the oppositions. They are there. And information brought at the wrong time. For example, somebody suddenly now wants to tell you what happened during the 2007 post-election violence, because he wants to use it now to change opinion or discredit somebody. Selective information, twisted information. And let me tell you how twisted information works. There was a time the president was talking here in Nairobi, and he said, those who are looting shops, those who are destroying life and property, and those who are fighting the police, you can shoot them in the legs. In the evening, when we looked at all TV stations, they were saying the president said, shoot protesters in the leg. And everybody said, yeah, I heard him say that. Because the key word there is shoot in the leg. The subsequent information around it can be twisted a bit. So that is what I wanted to put across before we start discussing whether the 10-point agenda was implemented or implementable. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for Mwalimu. Allow me to do something here. Because we want to discuss the status of the implementation of the 10-point agenda, who among you, by show of hand, feels that the 10-point agenda has been implemented fully? None. Okay. Okay, we have one.
Yeah.
Okay, who among you feels that the 10-point agenda has been implemented but partially? All right. Who among you feels that the 10-point agenda has not been implemented? Wow, okay. Thank you so much. And I want to start with you, the two of you. Why do you think the 10-point agenda has not been implemented? We can start with the lady. Ladies first.
But men came before.
Okay, let's start with you.
So from a policy and administrative view, because that's the course I'm taking, public policy and administration, I will see that the 10-point agenda has not been implemented, because on the administrative side, we normally focus on the implementation of what has been enacted from the policy. So they talked about, if I can look, the first thing was about the issue of cost of living as per now, and also fuel prices. There was a lot of things that they were taking in consideration, the institutions that we have. And as per now, according to what is going on practically in our country, I can boldly say that the 10-point agenda has not been implemented. Because if the 10-point agenda was implemented, the way Mwalimu said, we cannot shoot corruption, but you could have seen some steps towards killing corruption. We could have seen some practical and implementable steps to solving the cost of living. But nowadays, it's just about discussing the issues, but not discussing the solutions. Thank you.
When you talk about unemployment, you find like many Gen Zs, they don't have work. Personally, when they talk, the government speaks, you see, they say that they have employed. You can talk about kazi mtaani. Yes, many Gen Zs are employed there. But when it comes to like they employ people based on how they know them. So like you find they are employing people and they're being paid 5,000. So how can 5,000 help people? Like me, I'm saying in terms of employment, like how comes kama the person who is mwenye amesimamia youth ako 56 years, how come naye ndo anafaa kusimamia Gen Z, how come? So yeah, he does not know what Gen Z, the young people, go through. Yeah, like older enough.
Okay, thank you. My friends here have said that because of the cost of living and unemployment, that is why they feel like the NADCO report has not been implemented fully or has not been implemented. And now I have the second category who said that the 10-point agenda has been implemented but partially. So because we have two women and one gentleman, I'll start with the gentleman. You can pass the mic.
Okay, to my side, I think that the 10-point agenda has been implemented partially because if you look at the compensation of the families who were killed during the demonstration, they have not been already compensated. But if you look at the youth empowerment, many youths are benefiting from the empowerment, like the Nyota projects, where they are given some small money to start small businesses. There is economic justice, where some regions were left behind in the national development. But right now you can see there's economic justice. Yeah, that's my take.
Okay. Next.
My take on the 10-point agenda, it was established to bring in dialogue and some stability in the country. I could say that it has been partially implemented because it has stopped like the protests in the country. There haven't been protests in a while. And the ODM has come together with the government. They are having discussions. Although it is divided right now, the ODM party, some of the members are in conjunction with the government in making sure that there is some peace in the country right now. The part where it is not implemented, when we come to the point of fighting corruption, we could find that some of the governors, when they are summoned in parliament, they prefer to provide fines instead of going to the parliament to answer questions concerning the budgets in the county governments. So that's why I'm saying that it has been partially implemented.
Thank you. Next.
Personally, I think that the 10-point agenda has 10 points. So each point has to be implemented individually. So having implemented some does not necessarily mean that we are now done. We have, for example, the first one, say devolution. They were to strengthen devolution. How do you strengthen devolution? By taking Nairobi back to the national government some parts. That is not strengthening devolution. The second one, we say, for example, reducing corruption, or the controller of the budget is saying, for example, but cleared it, but that some are overspending money. Overspending, where is it going? Who is spending this money? We also have job opportunities. We can credit them, say they have given members countrywide Nyota Fund, say the 22,000 to start their businesses. We can also talk about the protection of human rights, for example, the compensation, for example. Say the crediting part will be that they have been able to bring those that murdered or killed our Gen Zs to justice. Still, the court cases are still going on. We can also talk about he has tried to form a committee, but forming a committee slows down things. But then we have the human rights that is supposed to pay the compensation to the families of those that lives were lost. So we can also say there is a bit of both. This one is working, the other one is not. But since they renewed it, they also know that they are not done. So that's why there was a meeting this week that was held to make sure that they continue doing it, because they know they are not done. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you so much. There's someone who had a point and hadn't enumerated, please. Yes.
So just to make it clear, I think that the 10-point agenda is very consistent to the Constitution, because some of these basic things that it's talking about, cost of living, these are the reason why we have the Constitution, the institutional reform. So I think they're just some information from the Constitution. As Mwalimu has taught us just right now, that there are continuous problems that need continuous solutions. So these are continuous problems that we are facing as a nation, and they need continuous solution. There is nothing like 10 point and then we deal with them. We need to work as a country so that we can bring concrete change. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
For me, my question is to the Gen X's Gen Z. In terms of implementation, is there a yardstick that measures when implementation happens? So we can say that the government is doing something, but as the population, how are we able to tell that the government is working or is not working? Because I think that is the problem, that there is solutions, but how are we seeing those solutions happening in real time to enable us to understand whether or not the regime of the day is working? Thank you.
Thank you so much. And before I continue, this conversation is live on YouTube at Red Ring TV, and of course at Odoyo Wedi's Facebook page. So make sure that you comment. We'll be reading some of your comment on this broadcast. And panelists, they have a lot of things that have been enumerated, from the cost of living crisis to unemployment and what have you. And people feel that the 10-point agenda has not been implemented or have been implemented fully. I'll start with you, my gentleman. What is your take on whatever our audience has said?
For me, I think it is partially implemented, because if you try to look at it, right now, there is this point of inclusivity. I think the public wasn't included in that 10 points agenda. It was only between two parties. It was between UDA and ODM's officials. So we didn't even include the public, whether to ascertain whether that the 10 points were right or wrong. Another one is the spending of the resources. Some few days ago, we saw that the State House is spending about 40 million plus. And they said, they reduced it from the spouse office, and now the State House is spending that money, which is very wrong. So for me, I think it's partially. Another thing is they did, the only thing that I think has been implemented is the youth, the Nyota Fund only, and this one road that they're building, the Likoni, Summit Highway. That's the only thing that they did, according to me.
Thank you so much. Applause for gentlemen. And I would love Tony to come in here. You've listened to our audience, whatever they think, and about the 10-point agenda. What is your take on that?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I think I'm so impressed because they are fully involved themselves in the process. I'm seeing a lot of them have done their homework. I'm seeing young people interacting with the important documentation in our country. So for me, that's a plus, because when I look at that, I think then that the country, we have a bright future as a country, especially from the young lady when she mentioned actually tangible stuff that is included in the 10-point agenda. So for me, I really think that the president has shown all signs that he intends to implement this agenda. First of all, when you look at the issue of inclusivity in governance, we are seeing some of the appointments really reflecting the youth demographic being included. You look at the appointment of PS Fikirini Jacobs. I think for us, we can all not be appointed at the same time, but at least now having a young person there means then that our aspirations as young people are included. When you look at strengthening the full devolution, we are seeing the president promising that in the financial year 2026-2027, we are actually going to have an increase up to about 450 billion shillings being allocated to the county. So I think for me that's a plus for devolution, because those are some of the aspirations, some of the things that were chaperoned by the late former Prime Minister. When you look at the questions around peaceful assembly, and I know most of you are very intelligent and you are consumers of raw intelligence just like the president, we are seeing there's a demonstration bill in parliament actually, and what you are doing, I'm actually coming from a fellowship with other young people, and what we are doing is we are trying to develop a mock proposal on the demonstration bill. We are trying to look at some of those clauses, because we're a generation that really believes that we need to express ourselves, we need to participate actively, because the greatest responsibility you have is to be an active citizen. So the bill gives us an opportunity to then contribute. We can actually contribute to the lawmaking process of this country. So some of the things you are highlighting here as young people, it is my hope that you can also include them as proposals and even present them either to parliament or even to our county assemblies. But then there's a danger. Most of the times we like overemphasizing on the presidency and on the national executive. We are forgetting our county governments and the devolved units. So most of these young people will tell you that, you see, the president has taken 40 billion. He is forgetting that there's also some 8 billion somewhere that was sent to his or her county. So I think if it is about accountability, let us start it from the grassroots level, so that we don't concentrate up at you, yet there are people stealing, and they are all hiding. The other thing, you look at auditing and reducing of the national debt. We are seeing that it is actually the National Assembly that removed the debt ceiling that we had previously. Ile yenye ilikuwa imewekwa hapo as a limit. And what we have currently right now is that the debt is now quantified as a percentage of the GDP, and there's a certain percentage yenye ameweka hapo. So we normally like tuna concentrate kwa executive, we are forgetting we have the county governments, we have got the National Assembly, and I think really when you look at the president even trying to set up this National Infrastructure Fund, part of why he's doing that is to reduce over-reliance on debt, so that we are able to finance our development projects from money that we have actually raised. And it is possible. Some of the problems we have as a country is because we have been so used to mediocrity that when something new and something very, very good for the country, we start fighting it. And the role of propaganda, I can't emphasize enough. Unapata the Standard imeandika hapo 11 billion lost, kubwa hivi. You believe that one now is the fact that exists. You don't go to interrogate it. You don't check who is the source of this information, you see. So propaganda really plays a very huge role, and consuming it, even by the way, leads to a lot of misinformation and disinformation. Of course, we are in the information age. So my challenge to us, not just to you, but to all of us, let us interrogate information that we counter. Because even these media houses, some of them are even owned by politicians. And somebody maybe wants to gain political expediency. And lastly, the questions on corruption. I believe this, within the 10-point agenda, there's also some aspect of redundancy and generalities, things that we cannot actually, and I like the question that she asked, that how do we measure progress? Tunajuaje kwamba corruption sasa imepungua? Unaona? Because corruption starts from the county, starts from the policeman, na niwe mara nyingi unapatiana ongo. So between you and the policeman, you are giving the ongo. Are you not also corrupt? It starts from you as the citizen. And my last challenge also, 2027 is coming. This 10-point agenda, let it not dissuade us from the main agenda. I hope we are registering as voters, so that then we are able to effect this change. If if we are indeed discontent by the level of development we have seen, we have got that opportunity in 2027 to then choose that leader whom we want. The other thing, now there's the very last, the very last. Yes. So you see the issue of wastage. I believe post 2024 Gen Z protests, imepungua kidogo. We don't see the kind of opulence we used to see where politicians come with a lot of money, yet you are really struggling. But then I would want also Mwalimu to delve a bit into this, the question of employment. Whose responsibility is it to employ all Kenyans? Does government have that capacity? And I would love to know how the pronouncement of the Constitution on the question of employment. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for Tony. I know the only lady, Madam Joan. You've listened to what our panelist, Mr. Tony, and my friend there, and the audience are saying. They are not contented.
First and foremost, I just want to join Tony in congratulating the Gen Zs, for being involved, for holding government to account. I think it's the right thing to do. And I want to emphasize that governance of a country must involve the people. So whatever you're doing is right. Decisions that are made, you must be involved. We have a problem in this country where we sit back, and I'll talk about the budget making, process. How many of us understand that the budget making process is actually guided by law? Do you understand that it's guided by law and it has a cycle?
Yes.
And how many of you follow that cycle? Do you know when the budget process begins and how it moves? And do you know that that process is where all these expenses that you complain about, or the country complains about, are actually effected? So by the time that this budget goes to Parliament and it's passed, you are consulted. So what I would encourage you all to do is make sure that you're involved in these processes, be it a policy making process, be it a budget making process, so that as you're holding to account from the point of information. You know that this is what was agreed on, this is what we brought up. Why is it that this thing that we asked for is not in the budget? So that it's a two-way communication. I also want to speak about corruption. In July last year, I think the president assented to the conflict of interest law, right? How many of us have gone in and, understood what that law is about? I happen to be part of the team that actually made the draft of that law. And it's a process that we began during the last administration. And we actually made the draft and it was set aside for whatever reason. And when the current administration actually assented to that law, it's something that is a good, it's a fresh breath of air, because it actually holds public servants, it directs public servants on how to deal with public finance management. And I think that with that assent of conflict of interest law, it is part of the process of fighting corruption. If you look at, what SEC has done, I actually did some notes here in terms of fighting corruption. There's a lot of corruption cases that have passed through the courts, and where, and in the last, I will say this. Oh boy, where are you? Conflict of Interest Act was passed, and the ESCC actually managed 86 convictions, where 9.8 billion was recovered. Remember, corruption is something that moves. Just like Mwalimu said, you cannot hold someone as having conflict of interest, because conflict also moves. What you need to do is identify the conflict and come out and say that you're conflicted. It's not wrong to be in a position that you have a conflict with, legally. And so long as you actually come out and say that, you know what, I'm conflicted here and I ask to remove myself from it, or just let people know that you're conflicted. It's okay. So the EACC is doing some good work. There's a lot of matters that are before the courts. Fighting corruption is a very difficult thing. And for me, I think we need to stop fighting corruption and prevent corruption. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for Madam Jan. Yes, Malik.
Thank you very much. And I am very happy that today we have a very enlightened group. They are very clear on what makes them believe that the 10-point agenda is not implemented. It is natural that there are those who see nothing done, those who see something done, and those who see everything done. That is natural. That is how the society is. But one of the reasons why people disagree on any issue is because they have different information and they believe in different things. The only thing that we can do here now is bridge the information gap. To make you believe in what we say or what anybody says, we can only give you the formula, and then you use that formula to evaluate when people are speaking. Most politicians, when they speak in Kenya, you will notice that everything that goes wrong in the country, they blame on one person, the president. Yet, when we were fighting for democracy, those days when you are still not able to fight, we were trying to create laws, make institutions independent and autonomous, so that they can take the blame directly. For example, if the judiciary fails today, you have no business blaming the president. For example, if EACC fails today, you have no business blaming the president, because even the president is supposed to be oversighted by that very EACC. But many times, politicians have made us to believe that the president of Kenya today, like the one we had 30 years ago, have all the powers to overrule anyone. No. We have had the president being stopped by court orders. That tells you how independent the courts are. We have seen the presidents, candidates losing in elections. That means there is a body there that is autonomous and is independent, IEBC. So be very careful when you see a person who wants to blame everything. Even a policeman who kills his wife in Homa Bay, you come and blame the president. We are getting it all wrong.
There are floods.
So let's look at some of the things you people said. There's a guy here who said that no implementation has taken place because of the cost of living, and there is nothing done towards those who are killed during the post-election violence, and then there is corruption. The moment you will see politicians begin to blame EACC and not the government, then you know you have a proper country. But a country where you want all to blame the government for everything, it means you expect him to do all those things. And when he begins to do them, you will again blame him for dictatorship. We cannot accept that. In fact, to have a good government, let's begin to blame the independent institutions. It is them to tell us that the president has stopped us from doing this. The president has stopped us from arresting. You know, there was something somebody said here about strengthening devolution. And I have noticed even very educated politicians tell you that devolution has not been strengthened because the funds to the counties was only increased by 5 billion. But remember, to strengthen devolution is not about giving them more money. It is also about enacting proper laws to ensure that they account for your money. And what did the president do? Made sure the government came up with a law that made the MCAs autonomous and independent financially, so that the government, the county governments, don't hold them at ransom. You know that law came up that gave direct financing to MCAs. And those are some of the things we need to look at. But as I told you earlier, when you wear the lens of I am anti-government because I am in the opposition, you will never say anything good about the government and vice versa. So be careful about that when you speak. Sometimes you can find your father wrong in an argument with your neighbor. Next. There's a lady who talked about employment of some people based on who they know. Now, that is corruption. It should fall squarely under corruption.
Nepotism.
And the anti-corruption and the corrupt must take responsibility for that. It is them to go to court and tell us that the president gave us a call to stop arresting so-and-so, to stop fighting corruption in this manner. But when you go blaming one person, you will not be everywhere all the time. And you will assume it is political witch hunt. But when you specify, in any case, it is easier to deal with these bodies than deal with the president. And so somebody says something very interesting, and that the guy in charge of the youth is 56. You know, the only thing that I can say, I'm not saying that he must be older, but remember, the babysitter doesn't have to be the age of the baby all the time. As long as, because he has experience of being a youth, he was there once. Yes. But if you find something that should be done by a youth is given to me, then complain. But when a minister is not youth, he has been there before, and he may help you than somebody who has not been an adult, is only a youth. The compensation of families, let me tell you what is going to happen. I just want me to inform you. Government is an institution of procedures and policies. You want to compensate those who got injured during the protests. First of all, you must be able to identify them. You must also be able to prove that this particular one was injured when he was entirely innocent. I noticed so many photos that were being displayed online during the post-election violence. There was one I particularly was interested in, where two gentlemen wearing t-shirts were throwing stones, and they were gathered in a cloud of tear gas. Then I went back to Article 37, and I was like, is this the peaceable and unarmed protest envisaged in Article 37? Because there are certain times you may blame the protester and also blame the government. Because there's a day I woke up in the morning at 8, Thika Road was already blocked with stones, fires were already burning, people were already chasing policemen into trucks, and shops were being broken already. So as we blamed the government for the injuries, we must also blame the organizers for not asking the protesters to maintain law and order. So that when we start to compensate, you will see a very big problem. Because I will come and say, see, this, I was injured during the post-election. I can't provide the date. I can't provide any records. Maybe you went into somebody's house and you are beaten there. You come and say. Worst of all also, if people are overcompensated, people will go to the streets when there's nothing. They say, if I die, my family will be compensated. If I don't die, well and good. So watch this space. We will watch it together with you and see how far we go. The protest ended. ODM got together with the government, and we say that ODM is divided. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad, but I don't think it's divided. Because in that group that you call, is it called Linda? Linda Wananchi. There are only two ODM officials there, Osotsi and Sifuna. And as we sit here, Sifuna is practically out of that place despite the court order. But the majority of the officials are remaining in that other one. Remember, I'm talking like that. I don't belong to ODM, I belong to UDA. So, and of course, there is a law in this country. Madam Jan will remind you about it. It says, if you act in the interest of another political formation, you have automatically left your own party. If you promote the interest of another political formation, if you go to hold your rallies in blue colors and leave the orange, if you speak against your own party and speak pro others, then you have left it. And they know, listen to their speeches. When Sifuna was speaking during the Linda Wananchi speech last at Uhuru Park, a day after 10-point agenda was launched. He said those points were not for ODM and UD only. They were for us also. He's admitting that he's not in ODM anymore and UD. That is his statement, not mine. So it is very easy to see through them, because even when you pretend, you can't pretend in your sleep and in your dreams. We will hear how you dream. When your boyfriend visits you and you hear him talking about Jane, know that he's not with you. Even when he wakes up, he will tell you a different story. There's something I wanted to talk about, and it came from somebody who said the 10-point agenda is largely implemented. If you look at what Nyota has done and add that Nyota on top of the removal of taxes for those who earn 30 and below, and then you look at the large-scale employment of teachers, and we are going to have another additional 15,000 policemen, that is the much government can do to take care of you. Because if you are unemployed and you didn't go to school properly, you didn't go to university, enda Nyota, uanze biashara ya kuuza hata kuku. If you are a university graduate, we will get those who go education, we have parastatals employing, and we have those who are going to the police. But another angle of employment is not the government. It is the government creating an atmosphere where there is investment. It is the investors who will employ majority of the people. Look at what the government did when they built the bypasses. There's one bypass called the Eastern Bypass that begins from Embakasi, Utawala, Ruai, and then Roiro. You were not there when that road was not there. Utawala, Ruai, Ruiru were ghost towns. When that bypass was built, they are now mini cities. And a mini city has a lot of businesses that can employ me and you and many others. That is a way of a government creating employment. Forget about the many affordable housing going on. That is obvious. Anybody can understand. Forget about the infrastructure being constructed. That anybody can understand. But creating atmosphere for investors to invest in is a bigger way of getting employment. Institutions create opportunities for employment. So what I wanted to say next on that also sorts out economic justice. But let's go to something that was very interesting, the debt. It came as a bypass, but I want to say something about it. Last night, I had an online argument with some people about the level of public debt. So I told them, sometimes when you want to evaluate something, use percentages instead of absolute figures. Why? Because when Uhuru left office, the debt level was 8.7 trillion. When he got in 2013, it was 1.8 trillion. The increase was 380%. But you can't use absolute figures because during those times, the value of the shilling is different from what it is now. That is number one. Number two, another thing that increases debt is interest. It is not necessarily a new borrowing. You borrowed 900 million in 2015. Today, anadaiwa 2.2 billion. And he has not borrowed anymore. As an educated person, what do you think about that? Do you think the fact that the debt during President William Ruto has increased means he has borrowed some more? It is not necessary that he has borrowed. Don't listen to the politicians absolutely. Look at the lenses they are wearing. Look at the political side where they come from. But again, he has not been 100% right on debt. But he has done something also very profound. He has said, if I own a car, instead of taking the car to the Shylock to give me money to pay school fees, why don't I sell the car, pay school fees? After the fees is over, I will be stable enough to buy another car. We have parastatals in this country that do not bring any dividend at the end of the year. In fact, some of them, after 2-3 years, the government has to resurrect them from collapsing. Sell them, use the money to build roads, build infrastructure, to create new employment and new money for the country. This is the way we are supposed to argue, because we are telling you we don't want the government which we have because of 1, 2, 3. Anybody in a football field will always make a mistake. Anybody sitting on the benches will never make a mistake. But have they told you who's going to take over? Who you have not been with and whom you have proved will not do these things. So tell politicians, before you enumerate the problems of this government, tell us what you have done and what you are going to do better and how you are going to do it. Because a person who enumerates the problems of others without providing solutions or suggesting is worse than the person who is providing solutions at 20%. It's worse.
Can I just add something
Yes,
to what
yeah,
Madam was saying? And about the solution provision and trust. Kenyans seem not to trust their government from time immemorial. I think since I was a child, there's a way that, and it's getting worse, there's a way that we've been conditioned to always oppose. Kenyans oppose. It doesn't matter that you're explaining to them something very clearly, they will still want to oppose it. I've never understood why that is. Maybe it's politically instigated, but we need to ask questions. Even as you're opposing, you need to also come up with either a solution or try and think deeper why you're opposing whatever you're opposing. A Gen Z asked there about having a, what do I call it? You know, government should be able to have a, is it a, what did you call it? A yardstick. The president every year, as a matter of constitutional responsibility, has the State of the Nation address to Parliament, right? Where he actually states what his government has done. And this is also supposed to happen at the county level. At that point in time, you're supposed to interrogate that president's report to determine whatever he has done against the manifesto. So that as you're complaining, that we always like to complain, you're complaining from a point of knowledge, not complaining from a point of social media, not complaining from a point of political position. We need to be smart. I remember during that 2024 Gen Z protest, there was a young man who was walking around with his constitution. And you know, in the process of protesting, he was actually opening up provisions of the Constitution and sharing it with the police, sharing it with fellow Gen Zs. And I think that's a good place to be. Let's protest from a point of knowledge. On issues of employment, you know, we think that only government can employ people. How many people can government absorb? Take a wild guess. How many? Government cannot employ all. How many Gen Zs are there? You're millions of you. Wote mnaweza andikwa na serikali? Hamwezi andikwa na serikali. But just like Mwalimu was saying, those opportunities are presented. When a road is being built, those people eat, right? So you get someone who cooks, someone supplies water to them to drink, and the money that they make actually has rippling effects, you know, multiply effects. But because she has to go and buy mboga, she has to go and buy water from somewhere, she has to go and buy. So there are multiply effects that come with that building of the road, come with the building of the houses. Employment happens within there. So let's not look at employment from government perspective, that government is the one that has to actually bring you an appointment and tell you, okay, Gen Z, kazi ndio hii fanya. I will take an example of the Nordic countries where opportunities are determined from the time someone is young and coming up. So you'll find that my child's interest may be in masonry, for example. So they'll make sure that they train that child in masonry and provide that opportunity. So you'll always find them building. Hizi barabara mnaona ati ni kazi ya, you know, si kazi mzuri. Those are opportunities that give gainful employment. Experience is the best teacher. We cannot tell you to, for example, ask you to lead your fellow Gen Zs in a certain area because you may not have experience. So I think it's always good for us to take it positively that we have been given someone older than us to lead us. What we need to ask is, are they leading us right? Not why are they leading us? Are they leading us right in whatever way they are leading us? And this is something also that I always tell Kenyans generally, that for every right that you have, there's a duty or responsibility. And I'll make it very practical. The protest, for example, when as a Gen Z, you go into a protest and you go and break into a shop, what are you doing? You're infringing in someone's right. You're infringing onto someone's right because umeenda unaanza kuvunja, you're stealing, you're committing a crime. You have no right to go and remove that public good, for example. I see you break traffic lights, for example. For every right, there's a duty, and I think we need to practice that duty. And that's why I'm happy that there's a bill, for example, that there's a bill in Parliament that will regulate that demonstration. In South Africa, where there was a lot of violence, in terms of apartheid, you'll find that they still demonstrate when they don't like something. But there is a regulation around that demonstration. They'll walk from point A to B singing. They stop, they give their petition, and they move out. But sisi petition yetu hii Kenya ni kama ni distraction. We have to destroy something, that's a petition, And then when police come to try and stop that, to protect others, from danger, tunaona hiyo ni shida. And I just want to ask you all, what is employment in your understanding? Ni kwenda kukaa chini kwa ofisi na kalamu na karatasi na kushika simu? Please tell me. Thanks.
As they will tell you, there was something I wanted to say here. You will realize that the 10-point agenda already covered in the Kenyan Constitution. So they are being put on paper and being placed before the country that they must be implemented. Was from where I sit an exit strategy to get those who are protesting in the streets of something to show their followers. Because if I am your leader and you had backed me to go to the streets and I'm getting out, what is in it for you? Then I say, these people of mine, I want you to compensate them. I want you to get for them jobs. I want you to stop corruption so that more money can be used on them. So that is what is happening. But there was nothing really new. But something very interesting was the public wasn't included in the 10-point agenda. The Constitution demands, it tells you that you are sovereign and you can do this thing by yourselves or through your elected representatives. You cannot have a meeting of the whole nation, but your representatives can get into a meeting and we assume they know what is good for you because you are the one who elected them. Then there was spending at State House. Very emotive thing. Very emotive. You can be in your house with your stepmother and your father gives 500 and you spend it and you are very happy. Your father is very happy that she spends 500. When your mother comes, she improves diet, she buys new seats, she renovates your house, and the budget goes to 4 times that. And then your father will say, oh, your mother is wasting resources. I'm trying to say budget follows functions.
True.
Have you seen the State House we have today? That is not all. There are many other things. And these days, what used to be in Arambe House has also moved to State House. So difference in that. And again, the size of State House is like the size of any other parastatals, including the University of Nairobi.
An institution, yeah.
So if you find the University of Nairobi has a budget so big, State House will have something also relatively big. That is a big institution. You need to get in there and find how many people are employed there, what functions takes place there. Some are even in your interests. But the best thing in political arguments is comparison. Because even the person you want to replace the one you think is corrupt, we also must compare it with this one to see who we decide to take. What was that budget when it was the other president who was in office? And what did he do with it? Because it may have been less, all right, but what did he do with that less one? He bought Glenfiddich and they drank. And this one has bought paint and they have painted State House. So let us see, what have they done with this money we think they have wasted? So that we are clear. You know, in politics, we use things which are logical to sway you, because when you are being addressed, especially in a political rally, there's no time to think. They will tell you things and there's no time. They tell you, oh, we can't pay for Mau Summit when it is built by our funds. You don't even remember we are paying for expressway. They will tell you, why are we being asked for additional money to build the Rinoni Mau Summit? We are forgetting that is a whooping 175 billion compared to this one we built at 35 billion with direct resources. So they don't give you time to think. So I want you from time to time to evaluate some of these things. So otherwise, when we go to how do we know things are being done, hiyo ni yako sasa. Utajua tu vile utajua. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for Mwalimu, please. We can do better than that. At this juncture, I want to give opportunity to this gentleman who said, actually, the 10-point agenda has been fully implemented. And I think we have Mike. Let me give you this, okay? Why do you think so, sir?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm Tony. And the 10-point agenda have been implemented. And by the look of things, let us start and look about the transformative life of our nation. We have the opening of roads. We have the opening roads help in economic development and economic growth. For example, we have a dual super highway that the president already launched, and that one will help and gain economic development within Western region, Rift Valley region, and also Nyanza region. Another one we have about the gaining of influence. Gaining of influence, I want to talk about the unemployment. I want to talk about the Nyota Fund. And through the Nyota Fund, I've really helped so many youths because they have opened different businesses. For example, we have Mama Mbogas. It has promoted their economic gain. And to me, I really support the development and the 10-point agendas because it's working. For the look of things, it is working.
Okay. Who again has a similar, and I think we have this friend of mine. You said you don't understand the 10-point
challenge.
You
What
may
you have said. So you give each one of them.
Yes.
That is when it's a debate. So
Yeah.
Let's start from the other side to this side.
Oh, okay. There are things that have been said, and you people have said that the 10-point agenda has been has not been implemented, the two of you, and then we have the three of you said it has been implemented by partially. From whatever has been enumerated here, are you feeling satisfied? Let's start with you. Yes.
I feel satisfied. Yeah, I feel satisfied because Mwalimu has elaborated more that we should not depend on the propagandas that are being released by different media houses, but we should rely on actual facts. Yeah, I think it is a continuous process. Implementing the 10-point agenda, it's a continuous process. Yeah.
Thank you. From what I've got, I feel like the 10-point agenda shouldn't fall on the president alone, but on different parastatals in the government to fight the different issues that have been raised. Thank you.
All right.
From what has been said, I think we are all in the same point, because Mwalimu has talked about how you saw the Gen Zs throwing stones, but as a lawyer, there's something you call, I don't know what it's called, I slap you and then you shoot me.
Defense, self-defense.
So there's something that is called, I'm forgetting, but an action and the replica should not, when I slap you, slap me back, don't shoot me.
Oh.
Slap me back, don't shoot me. So saying that because we threw stone, okay, we threw, I don't mean I was there.
Okay, even if you're there.
Doesn't necessarily mean I should have been shot because I threw stones. We also have the issue on devolution. Honestly, these things are how you look at them. If you look at the point of devolution in terms of strengthening the capacities, where the national government has left some of the works to be done, the service provided to be done by the citizens, the county governments. These are things that are supposed to happen naturally from the 2010 Constitution. We also need to look at, for example, the issue on. There is an issue you've talked about where the cost of living. People who are paid 30,000 now are not being charged. That is a good thing. Are not paying taxes. That is what we ought to have, because now that's the point on the cost of living has now gone down for them. We also have now the issue on taxes now for the 450 that is being proposed, but we also have the issue on the supplementary budget that the deputy is asking for, deputy president is asking for. These are issues that in Gen Z language we call them 6-7. When I say 6-7, it's something. It's 50-50. There is this and there is that. So we should all. There is no. I can't say there is an agreement. These things are continuous. That would be my take.
Round of applause. All right. Yes. So, do you feel
Conclusively, I would wish to say that the 10-point agendas, I would wish to, if you allow me, to reframe it to the 10-point government responsibility that was there, is there, and will always be there. So I think the cost of living is a responsibility of the government. I think all these things outlined there will always be the responsibility of the government. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. The lady.
I'm convinced. Personally, I was not relaying the point of hizo za Nyota fans. Ama ni juu sikupata, so I don't know.
Will you apply? Did you apply?
These are graduates. It's not for graduates.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So personally, nimeona at least it's helping. It's helping though.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. And I need Mweshimo to come in here. You told us that you don't know what the 10-point agenda is. Are you now convinced that probably you know something about it?
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the depth and the width of knowledge by the Gen Zs on this critical issues that are pertinent in the governance of our country. I agree with Odhiambo there, who says that there was no 10-point agenda that was separate from the responsibilities that we have placed in our government constitutionally and even by legislation. So we just duplicated things or extracted things and asked that they be done. But granted, if what has been enumerated here were the bone of contention that arose from the Gen Z protest, then I think the government has really mainstreamed their attention to those issues. I'm glad. My understanding is that the Gen Zs are frustrated because they have gone through school, they have been promised jobs and beautiful wives and handsome husbands, and none of this has come through. That can be very frustrating. But the realization that government cannot give everybody a job, a husband, and a wife is a good starting point to understand the source of our frustration. And as such, I would want us to all join hands in building a better country for all of us. It is our responsibility as a country. And the Gen Zs also need to appreciate that one day there will be ex-Gen Zs. And they also need to appreciate that there are younger people coming behind them. I know they have a lot of criticism for the older generation. I am not sure how much they bother about the younger generation to them. If you think of life like that, then you will get it in the right context. Otherwise, I want to appreciate you all for the contributions you have made. Thank you very much.
Panelists, there's something that has really come up from the lady behind me, and she talked about the proportionality of the force used during a demonstration. And I'm glad that we have a lawyer here, because more often than not, we talk about we use deadly force to defend deadly force, but is throwing stone a deadly force because we have a gun? And I think the lawyer can jump in on that.
That's very tricky, and especially considering that right to life is something that we are given by the Constitution. You know, someone can just not take your life because they think they can. I just want to answer that question by asking a question, and maybe we can weigh in on this. I'm a police woman. You're Gen Z, you're 500 of you. I have a gun. You're all coming to me with stones and all sorts of weapons to attack me. And we saw that quite a lot. There are police officers during the protest who actually, dealt improperly to the protesters. Like the one who found, there was a guy with a mask who was selling masks or something and was shot. That was wrong. And I think he was arraigned in court, right? As a result. That was wrong. But you can imagine a situation where you're approaching me, you're 1,000 of you, you're many, I'm alone. What am I supposed to do? Or let's take the example of the police woman who was actually overrun by the mob. And one of the protesters are the ones who were actually pushing back the rest and covered her. I'll also take you back to a video that was doing the rounds from the US of a policeman who was actually warning the public that, if you come to my people, my police with force, will exercise equal force. If in America they're allowed to carry guns. So if you're approaching a police officer with a gun, you expect him to stand there because it's your right to protest and look at you. I'm not saying police have a right or should shoot. That's wrong. That's not what they're trained to do. But there are instances where it's the only force they have to use. Maybe they need to be trained better, shoot kwa mguu. Can you imagine shooting kwa mguu in that whole... I'm being practical here. I'm not being a lawyer. But right to life is something that is God-given, and even the Constitution protects it. So use of force is something that, as a country, we need to find a balance. And I think as a civilized society, we also need to behave in a civil way. That's why protests should be civil. And that's why I think we are coming up with regulations on how to protest, so that we don't find ourselves overstepping our protests. You're going into town to protest and you're breaking into someone's shop. How is that a right? So it's a balance we need to get within us. And just like I said, for every right, there's a duty. Right? What about the Gen Zs who went and attacked the police station and took off with guns? Did not take off with guns, ammunition. Yeah, so it's something we need to think about, and police should not kill. They shouldn't. Yeah, as a matter of fact, they shouldn't kill. Thanks.
But probably I just want to weigh in on what
Sure.
Joanne has just said, and especially in response to your question. The government has a duty to protect life and property. And that is a duty it has over the entire population. If there's a section of population that is threatening lives and property of the bigger population of the country, what is the government supposed to do? And again, I've seen the way protests are done, and when I was young, I also participated in protests. And the younger generation protest like they have to protest, and their protest must be respected, and they protest in the way they want. That goes beyond the constitutional provision of the right to protest. And we forget that the rest of the population are also our relatives and have a right to life. So when a protesting group threatens the life of a peaceful group, how should this peaceful group be protected for the bigger good of the country? And I think that is where the balance lies, that the government has a responsibility to protect lives and property of the majority of the people. So when you threaten majority, we stop you. The government has to hinder you from threatening majority of the people. And I think that is where commensurate force comes in. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to also weigh in a little more. We never seem to have people who protect the police very directly in this scenario. We always feel that the police has to protect everyone else without thinking that they also have a right. You know, they also have to be protected in line of duty. I know I will get a backlash on this from Kenyans, but I think police officers are they're our brothers, they're our sisters, they're our mothers, they're our fathers. They also need protection. And I'm not saying that they have a right or they have power to kill, but they also need to be protected. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. There's this friend of mine who wanted to add something on it.
Okay, I have a question on this 10-point agenda, and it's about political strategy and future outlook. And I want to address it to Mwalimu. How might the 10-point agenda influence coalition building ahead of 2027? Does it strengthen alliance or create division of parties prepare for the election? And the question under future outlook: what lesson from the 10-point agenda should shape the next generation or government priorities after 2027? What can we learn from the 10-point agenda and improve our future?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I want to take this
Just a minute.
Okay.
He has asked me a question, but even before I answer it, I wanted to say something about, I think it's what they used to call police brutality.
Yes.
Yes, and you know, Joanne will always give you the legal angle, but you need to also get the political angle, so that you go home well equipped. And first of all, let me just say that not everyone who threw a stone at the police or kicked the police got a bullet on himself. Number two, we have used the gun to defend yourself and use the gun to protect life and property. Two different things. In the protecting life and property in the gun, many times it is a deterrent so that you don't destroy property, so that you don't destroy another life. And when you are protecting life and property, the person you are facing the gun is not the innocent Kenyan. But again, he is not a foreigner. He is not an animal. He is another Kenyan who has gone rogue against other Kenyans, destroying property belonging to other Kenyans, destroying lives belonging to other Kenyans. Those are the ones you are facing. But now, when the gunfire will have to be used, it is now when you are protecting yourself against this lot. You can have 20 policemen, that's what a squad looks like, go onto the street and they find the street has 5,000 people. And those 20 people, maybe only 4 has guns. The rest have tear gas canisters, another lot have rungus and things like that. So we have 4 guns against 500 stones. So if one person will be collateral damage here, it is to protect the lives. It is to be a deterrent for you don't proceed beyond that, because these 20 people may all be at risk. But again, we need civic education so that people know that when you go into the streets, do we go like the nurses strike, doctors strike, or we go like what we saw, the chaos we saw the other time? I think we need to learn to have street protests the way doctors and nurses and teachers do it, so that we are at peace. But you see, the people who normally encourage us to go to the streets want to see a forceful takeover of government. That is why they keep on pushing us. Every day we used to see political rallies online addressed by non-Gen Zs, Mutunga, Miguna, Karua. And those were the people addressing political rallies online. They were not Gen Zs. But them, they are not going to the street, but they want to push the Gen Zs to the streets to return with power. And that you cannot achieve by being peacefully and unarmed. And I think we also need to understand one thing. The laws were brought so that the things we demand, those we demand directly and those we demand through our elected representatives, are not taken by force, but by law. So we need to fight very hard that the judiciary also maintains the law, the police also maintains the law, EACC also maintains the law, and all other government institutions that are autonomous and independent. But as for your 10-point agenda, I want you to recall that every time there is a violent conflict, especially on the streets, for people to come home, they must sit on a round table and say, okay, we are getting out of the streets, this is what you are going to do for us. And that is not limited to the protests we have in Kenya. Even war, America and Iraq, before they stop the war and go home, they'll have to sit on a table and say, Iraq, you must now do this. America, you must now not do this. That is what the 10-point agenda was doing. But as I told you earlier, it is purely exit strategy from that violence. That is purely what it is. There's nothing there that is not in law. There is nothing there that is new. If there was anything that was new, you will also go and find it was illegal. And that is why some of them are stopped from happening. But going forward, the coalition should be on what 2 political formations believe in, rather than what one political formation wants to be done for it. I don't think that is the I don't think that is the democracy we fought for. Yes.
Thank you so much. And I want to read some of our comments of people who are watching us online. Isaac, he is saying that I'm happy to see that there's tension in the house, probably the discussion that is happening. Baraza, you're saying that good conversation here, platforms like these bring about inclusivity on public interest matters like the currently 10-point agenda. Thank you so much. And Isaac, this is another Isaac, I think, talking about supporting career development for graduates. As a matter of fact, this is one of the unsolved challenges in the country. Probably talk about unemployment that we have just discussed here. And Job Collar, whoever that is, says that young people kindly be innovative, do something, don't just sit waiting for government jobs. Yes, and of course there's another Gilligan or something, Tony, for the fact that is Tony addressed to you, for the fact that it is working on matters concerning infrastructure. The 10-point agenda was implemented. John Mwangi, you say, I think issues like this, like corruption reforms, are still unresolved. And of course, other comments that are coming will be addressing some of your concerns here. And the tension in the room about proportionality. And Mwalimu, you have taken a political angle to that. But the question still remains, okay, we are going to protest. Can the organizers of the protesters educate the protesters they will be leading on how they should?
I want to tell them one more time, Gen Zs and non-Gen Zs in the room. You may go to the street thinking that it is your own idea. It is not. It is not. You know, we can be in a room like this. And before we came here, I'd already agreed with her that when I say this, clap for me. All these people will clap after you start the clapping. Then they will not know the deal between me and you. And they'll think, they now even remember what you said as, actually, it was worth clapping for. Some of the Gen Z who went to the streets got this information from other Gen Zs who got it from others who got it from the very ones that came from the real organizers of this thing. If it was spontaneous, if it was organic, Raila alone standing next to President William Ruto would have not stopped it. In fact, wherever they were crucifying Ruto, they would have crucified Raila also. So let us just agree that everything that is done needs leadership. And Gen Z had a leadership that was hidden from them. That you need to know. But what was important, they refused to give you civic education on the whole way of doing protests. But they gave you civic education on anything. Carry a mobile phone, carry a Kenyan flag, do this. All those they told you. But they refused to tell you that don't be violent, don't carry any weapon, don't commit any crimes in the street. That they didn't want, because they knew the death of a Gen Z is more painful than the death of 10 men. The choice of Gen Zs to lead this thing was because they knew Gen Zs don't have the benefit of history. Because elections are competitions. And competition you must measure, like she was asking us to. How do we? So we need a yardstick. And in this game, the yardstick can only be past presidents. That's the only yardstick we have for this game. Because all the politicians that are now queuing to take over, is there a Gen Z among them? None. There are people we have been with here for 30 years. Some of them have done nothing even into their villages. You still get home in Vumbi. You know, even some governors who just became governor the other day, they have tarmacked roads right into their homes. But some of the people who want to be president have not done that. So, do not expect them to do something for you if they can't do it for themselves. So one thing we need to know, brothers and sisters, you can be used without you knowing, because propaganda is the tool of politics in democracies.
Thank you. A round of applause for Molly. There's a topic that has been introduced here, that the Gen Z protest was not organic. Mwalimu has claimed that. And Gen Z protests started in Kenya, ended in Mozambique, the last time I checked. And I think the military took over the government there. But you, as the young generation, were sitting here. How many of you participated in that protest? By a show of hands.
Just put your
Just put your hands up. We're not.
It wasn't illegal. It was a legal thing. It was a legal protest.
Okay, for those who have shown up the hands, do you think the protest was organic? A yes or no?
I think the protest was manipulated. Yeah, so at first when we got into the street, there was, like, for me, I was going there wearing a Kenyan flag, and I was going there, I didn't carry any stone, I didn't do thing. I just wanted to be part of the revolution of our country. But there was another group which was doing all these things we are talking about. So I think there were two groups there, And as for the Jay-Z, like me, those who follow the law, sisi hatukutupa mawe na tukufanya kitu. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. And I think we have a question here. You can ask that as we look at those people who said that they participated, and I want to know if they think it was manipulated or not, or was it organic?
Okay, so first I'll give my opinion on whether the protests were organic or not. I did not participate. But the reason I felt the need not to, because I felt very strongly through past experiences, not just in Kenya, that this specific protest was not organic. If we look at the United States elections when it was Trump's first time, there was a lot of social media circulation going around in terms of disinformation. And there's a way that the algorithm was used to manipulate a particular person's perspective on a particular candidate. And I think something people should look at is something called an institution called Cambridge Analytica. And basically what they were doing is using social media and the algorithm to manipulate people's minds. And so that I am a Gen Z. I've been on this earth for 20 and some odd years. And so I felt as though me being a Gen Z, I know what we're capable of doing. I know that when it comes to social media, we are very quick to pick up whatever we see without necessarily diving deep into understanding the context and where this information came from. So the people who were behind these protests understood the mental processing of the Gen Z, and so used that to their advantage. That is my personal opinion. My question is that in terms of the panelists have talked about us holding our leaders accountable. There's something, and Mwalimu has talked about it, civic education. I think this is a gap because people also talk about grievances that they have with government. And government may be trying to solve some of these problems, but how can we as people understand our civic, our democratic rights if we are not informed? And so from a political view, what is government trying to do, if at all, in terms of educating, especially us, the younger people? Because again, you need to understand that this is a new age of technology. So what used to work before, like for example, Baraza ya Wazee or Ubuntu, those community setups, that necessarily does not work now. So what can government do to bring out information in terms of us understanding this is our country, we need to hold our leaders accountable, and even as we air out our grievances and opinions to our elected leaders, how do we make sure that what we have told them gets to where it needs to get to so that we actually see change? Thank you.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for her. I think we can deal with that question first before I get your views. Are we correct? And my friend, you can weigh in on that question as a young man.
She asked about what the government is doing.
Yes.
To bring about the civil education to the people.
Yes.
For example, right now, I think this one is one of it. Whatever these are face to face that we have right here. This is one of it. again, I'm sure the government is providing resources to that, like the education, and employing even more tutors for that, to educate people, especially the young people like you.
A round of applause for him. Yes, although you can come in and answer her question.
Yes, in terms of civic education, that's responsibility of government. I remember a while back, through the Office of the Attorney General, there was a program in that office that was responsible for civic education. And it is something that I think the government needs to take up. I agree that it will also fill the gap in making Gen Zs understand that whatever programs government is coming up with. For example, this Nyota program, it's something that has been given publicity. I'm not sure it's been given enough publicity. She didn't know that she cannot, she doesn't know about Nyota, and yet she's well schooled. You said you're a graduate and you're not able to access Nyota because of the criteria. So I think there's need for government to come out stronger to give public education, and also us, as citizens of Kenya, have a responsibility of providing that civic education. We are sitting here because we want to give back to country. There's something called volunteerism that the Western world builds on quite a bit. It's something that is missing in a lot of African jurisdictions. We need to encourage people to just come out and volunteer. Yeah. And also Gen Z, ask questions. Ask questions is part of civic education.
Okay. A round of applause for her.
I want to weigh in.
Okay.
I know Joanne tried to weigh in, but with limitations. Because I'm sitting next to Candy, I think I got her much more deeply than many of you who are sitting far from her. Yeah. First of all, I need to applaud her for having recognized that the Gen Z protest wasn't organic. It was hijacked, and the hijacking was executed through the algorithm that made it fashionable for the younger generation who are dependent on their phones. So they were getting instructions and incitement through their phones. And it's not unique to Kenya. I mean, we've seen these things happen. Not that we don't have grievances, but our grievances have never been acted upon simultaneously like we saw the Gen Zs reacted on the finance bill. So I want just to applaud that. And I know that's why I was asking preliminary questions to the Gen Zs. How much time do you spend on your phones? And how much trust do you put on your phone? And today, it is the way of life for the younger generation that you get information from your phone. But do it with some abundance of caution, that whatever you get in your phone, it's not necessarily well meant for you. Number two, the question is, what is the government doing to ensure that, because people are learning even now, that the younger generation are educated about their civic responsibility and civic rights? And I think that's a big question, because Candy rightfully observes that the younger generation cannot be taken to Barasa like we used to go to Barasas to hear what the government policies are. And I think it's a good challenge and a tough one, because when Gen Zs are to be educated on their civic responsibilities and civic rights, that is not very entertaining. And Gen Zs today are operating that part of the brain that is emotional, that wants things that are entertaining, things that are, I'm told you also like abusing each other or
Social media.
in the social media, and it is normal. So those are the things that take the larger part of the Gen Z's interest. But we are trying to catch up, and I think the government should also catch up with the Gen Z's in their spaces, which is through their phones. And I think the Gen Z's also have to come up with recommendations on how best they think they should be reached. Because I think there's need to reach you, but I don't know how to reach you. And if I try to reach you my way, you say that is not the way to reach us. So we would also want to hear from the Gen Zs how they want to be reached, so that there is communication between amongst all Kenyans. Otherwise, I want to commend the initiative by Dreadring TV, that now we have a forum whereby we can exchange and educate one another.
Indeed.
The beautiful part with this is that once we do it, it becomes a permanent record that can be shared with those who are here and away. Thank you very much.
Round of applause. We can do better than that.
I was actually looking, that's why I think I was distracted from Candy's question. I was looking for some information someone sent me a little while ago. I think it was Sri Lanka had a Gen Z revolution. And is it the country that had elections recently?
Now the one is Nepal.
It was Nepal.
Yes.
It's Nepal.
And their Gen Z candidate, they only elected one Gen Z. Only one Gen Z is the one that succeeded in the election. And the person who won the presidency was actually somebody who came from abroad, someone who was, forced onto the people.
Must have been Bangladesh.
It was Bangladesh. Yeah. I'm looking for that information. I just needed to share it with you so that to persuade you that a lot of times Gen Zs are manipulated externally. It was a very good case. I'll look for it and maybe share it with you so that we are able to understand that a lot of times we may think that as Gen Z, you are the ones in control of this. And maybe just coming from that, do you think that invading parliament the way you did was a good thing as Gen Z?
But before they answer that, let me just push your point a little further. You see, the Gen Zs could see how the Bangladesh revolution, which was also Gen Z instigated.
Yeah, it was Bangladesh,
ended up. And today we are in Kenya. And the Gen Zs have this problem from where I sit. I'm not sure if I'm right, reading them right. I see that they trust their phones more than they trust real human beings speaking with them. And I think that's where the challenge is. And the person manipulating you through the algorithm has no interest with you whatsoever. The only thing they know about you is your age and your emotional imbalance and challenges. So these are exploited to destroy your entire life without you seeing who is destroying it. I think the Gen Zs need to believe the people they live there with much more, because this distraction from the phone has taken the Gen Zs away even from their own parents, let alone their own neighbors, let alone their own colleagues. And I think that is where the problem is.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa. And we were asking a question before that, and some people made sure that they raise up their hands that if they think the Gen Z revolution that did take place was organic, and some said they think so. So you people, so that you tell us why you think so.
I think that the Gen Z protests were in three ways. We started well. We wanted change for the country. Then we got Gunzis. Then we got Gunzis. I don't know who sponsored the goons, who are, because they generally Gen Zs, we don't intend to destroy any property. But then someone wanted to taint the picture of the protests, then brought in the Gunzis, Gen Zs who are goons. Then we had the manipulators, the one, I'm not saying the one who wanted to come to government. And the main reason why the Gen Z protest stopped was because we were tired of seeing our own getting murdered. We were tired of going back to the streets to get killed. That was the main reason that the Gen Z protest stopped. Not because Raila talked for us, or not because he went to dialogue for us. No, we were tired of being killed. We were tired of seeing our own dying, and there is no compensation for that. Up to now, people are still running, and you can't compare money and life. And then we have the issue, or that the story you have given about the police. There was the question on the police brutality. There are many ways that the police can handle things. Police have been trained. There are people who know things. For example, you've given the story of a woman and many Gen Zs. There is a strategy called fall back. Stop staying there. Go back and wait for people to come back you up. That's a strategy that was employed in the Second World War. That's why they built trenches, so that when the war ikishika, munaruka ndani, mnaacha kukaa juu. I mean, let us be solution based, not us just wacheni kurusha mawe. Hapana, pia wewe rudi. You've said they are humans. You've said the police are human. Do they expect that the stones thrown will not kill them or will not injure them? Let them fall back, and then they wait for, it's called what? The backup. Yeah, reinforcements. And then they come attacking. But the Gen Z protests were infiltrated. They were pure at first. They were infiltrated by everyone. That was the issue.
Okay. Fall back. I'd like to
I
understand
think
that.
she's very right on all the things she has said. But if you fall back and reinforcements come, what is the scenario?
We will also fall back.
Okay. And number two, those stones make your protests, which was derived from Article 37, now illegal. Because now they are arms, stones.
They're arms.
That is the problem. Because you are playing into the hands of the police. You are now showing that. And again, there's something you people have not done. To try to do research and then use statistics to evaluate. Do you know Gen Z protests had the lowest death per day than any other protest that has ever taken place in Kenya?
This country, yeah. True.
It's only that this one,
Was louder.
the media was co-collaborators. The Gen Z who died was called, what was that guy, the Rastaman? Rex Masai. He became more famous than Baby Pendo and any other person that has been killed before because of the media, not because he was special. And I think we should have talked about each one of you. How did you know about the protest and how did you enter into the protest? Then probably that would help you decide whether it was organic or not. And then there was something you said that who sponsored the Gunzis? If the Gen Zs were not sponsored, why do you want to believe Gunzis were sponsored? These Gunzis may have been just people taking advantage. But if you are sitting where I sit, the Gen Z protest had an ownership. It was planned. And the majority of the people who led the Gen Zs into parliament were those Gunzis. Somebody owned them. It's only that sometimes you are sent somewhere and you don't know. There was a gentleman who died in the police cells in Central Police Station. Ojwang. That is called a false flag attack. You know what happens? The people who set up Ojwang
were the opposition, not the government. It is something nobody wants to believe because of the emotions it involves. But these days, there was a day, this gentleman called Natembea told us how the recently dead MP was being lured into a police cell to be sodomized. In the police cells, even now after work, you can be arrested, taken there. Somebody outside who is rich but not a policeman will bribe the sentry officer, bribe the duty officer, that they be allowed to bring some true criminals into the cells to discipline you, and then they go. The OCS doesn't know, the police commandant doesn't know, the IG doesn't know, and of course the president doesn't know. But when that happens, the responsibility is taken to the president. It has happened in Kenya many, many times. Even that one in Mombasa, you knew about that one. So what they do, they tell the sentry officer, hii kijana naitwa Ojwang ametutukana sana. Wewe chukua hii 50, wewe chukua hii 50, wache tuweke watu wawili, wa discipline yeye kidogo. Discipline yeye kidogo, but this discipline yeye kidogo, they have been told, don't leave him alive. So in the morning, the police find they have a dead person there. There's no time to think. They are not like you. They have no time to think. So the thing that comes before in their mind kidogo kwa haraka ni alijigonga kwa ukuta. There is propaganda. I want you people to go and research on propaganda, how it is used. Unfortunately, majority of the data you'll get online is propaganda propagated by the government. There is propaganda propagated by oligarchs, by deep states. Deep state is not necessarily government. Like in the US, the deep state is some Jew there, some Jews there who are very rich. They can control anything. Even in this country, rich oligarchs can control everything until you don't know. They can even bring down the government to go home.
Oh yes, control the world.
And as you think through, there was a very prominent death of the chief of defense forces. Yes. And it came just before the Gen Z protests. And when protests reach a certain level, the military is expected to come in so that it is over with the government overthrown. Think through that. Have a beautiful evening.
A round of applause for Walimu. Before I close this session, and we have talked about the Gen Z protest, the Gen Z who are here, do you have any question that you can direct to the panel over that? Any question? Any questions? Okay. Why did you get into the protest? Did you protest?
Through the internet.
Through the internet. What about you, sir?
I happen to have gone through the finance bill, and I felt like some of the things, they were so hard on us as Kenyans, and I just took, because that was whatever was happening, to agitate for change. So I took part, but I took part legally. Yeah, thank you.
What about you? Can have this.
Okay, to me, I didn't go to the protest, but I want to urge the youth, the Gen Z, tusitumiwe vibaya Gen Z now, the leaders. Tusitumiwe vibaya, tuangalie mbele, tuangalie our future. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, to me, I took part in the protest because there was heavy taxation and the rest, but we were mobilized online, so we were just we get the morale to join the protest. But for now, let us work together with the government and promote growth of the country.
Your mind.
I did not actively participate in the protests. What I can say is that whenever this kind of information is being spread in the social media, they should provide also how the people should conduct themselves in conducting the protest, so that a peaceful demonstration doesn't turn to a riot. Yeah, that's my say.
Next.
I don't want to confirm or deny, but what I'll urge us is let us see what you see what you envision for Kenya, and if that is what you envision, work for it.
Thank you. And I would like, because Tony is a Gen Z, Tony, did you participate actively or passively, and why?
Yes, I did participate in the protest, not just one. I'd participated in many other protests. I've even organized protests. But one thing that really stood out about this protest is that when I was actually paid for me. I was paid to go to those protests. So if you are going and you are not paid, then you are used.
You are what?
I was paid.
For all of them or this one?
For two demonstrations. Okay. There was actually money that was released. We were called at some hotel in Upper Hill because for Mimi, I'm a leader of so many people. So I was asked for lists. So Mimi, I prepared my boys very well. I told them there are protests, there's something, because you have to survive. Yes, and they went to the streets. But what really stood out is that when I reached the streets, the people that I saw on the streets, I really felt out of place. I did not see the people that I normally expect on the streets, because I was now seeing very young, beautiful girls, and I was also seeing very young Gen Zs with their iPhones. Everybody is snapping for a shot this way, you see. Yeah, so I think that is... So I just realized automatically, having been an expert in demonstrations, that this one indeed is not an organic demonstration. So actually on the day when people were to go now to storm the parliament, I was at around Mombasa Road over there. So I don't know whether it's the grace of God or the prayers of my parents, because I did not go beyond Haile Selassie. I retreated only to find out later on that there had been mass killings, you see. So I think for me it was I was really shaken. But this is one thing that I really think that also improved this country, because when the young people went there, you could see that the people who were losing their lives, most of them were male. If you checked keenly, the females were very few. But then also, there was a very huge influx of goons within that day, you see. So for me, one thing I've learned in this life is to be very skeptical and to be very analytical. Whenever you see things happening, don't just look at things from the face value. Look at it from the third lens. And Charles Bukowski says that the more intelligent you become, the more unhappy you become. But then again, the more intelligent you become, the more you realize how much you don't know, you see. So as young people, we do not know a lot of things, by the way. And I liked what Honorable Martin Ogindo said, that remember that also one day we are going to be non-youth. And the generation that is coming beyond us is even worse. Have you seen Gen Alpha? It is terrible. You see, so even as we do these things, let us remember that we are also on transit. Let us use the opportunity that we have wisely. But also coming briefly onto the demonstration bill that we have currently, right now you are also going to be held accountable if you are the organizer of the protest. Actually, in that bill, it is indicated that you must be able to provide the physical address. You as the organizer, you must select marshals who are going to man the demonstrations, and even those marshals, you must give their names, you must give their physical addresses. The protest must take place between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. So ukijipata beyond 6 p.m. you are still demonstrating. At the end of the day, there's what you think, there's what you feel, but there's what the law describes. Cindy. So the bill seeks an amendment on the Public Order Act, and it is also intended so that you as the organizer also take responsibility. Because in the course of the protest, some property may be destroyed. Who do you want to be held accountable for that? So most of the times you want to hold the government accountable, but sisi wenyewe, we don't want that. And then lastly, because I just wanted to, the question of, from, is it Candy? Yes, on the issue of how the government is trying to maybe enhance civic education and stuff, and to ensure that young people at least are, is a question that I recently also asked in PDF, the People's Dialogue Festival at Uhuru Park. But there's also, so I asked them, is it solely the mandate of IBC to conduct civic education? Whose responsibility really is it to ensure that we have got civic education. But when I looked at the constitution later on, I really found out that it is not only the IBC. Actually, even for you as an individual, it is your responsibility. And rights also have limitations. So there's a Kenya Development Corporation. If you are a young person looking for an opportunity, they provide loans up to 10 million shillings if you have a viable opportunity. If you want loans below 2 million shillings, we have the Kenya Industrial Estates. I hope you will also interact with that. Then you have the Agricultural Corporation of Kenya. So when the Agricultural Finance Corporation. So these are some of the opportunities that also exist that we sometimes as the young people under-explore. See, and then namaliza tu sahi because I may not get time to speak again as a Gen Z. The issue of employment that I talked about earlier on, niliandika wapi? Nilienda nikaangalia constitution. Kidogo tu. And this is what the constitution says. I think I've lost it, ndaitafuta baadaye. But learn to know when you are being used, learn to know when you are serving the interest of another person. Otherwise, usipojituma, utatumika.
A round of applause for Tony. Madam Joan, most of the young people here have said that the demonstrations were hijacked, but they have enumerated why they went to those demonstrations. What do you think about that?
Are they adults? Are you adults? When you went for the demonstration, you went as adults, yeah? So you're personally liable, responsible for anything that happens to you there, first and foremost. So if you're found in an impropriety, even though you have a right to demonstrate, know that you have to take responsibility for that. And it still boils down to the question of us analyzing and understanding why we get involved in all these things that we get involved in. Politics is dirty, you know. Just look globally how politics is played. So let's not fall into that political trap that we do not believe. Join parties, but follow the party manifesto if you feel they speak to what you subscribe to. Follow that political party, political manifesto should be able to make you understand exactly what a political party is about. Sometimes here in Kenya, we find that there's a very gray line between what we believe in politically and what we want government to do. We are swayed very easily by politics. Of course, there's politics everywhere, but we need to be smarter. Let's analyze why we are pulled into things. Let's also know that we are individuals with rights and responsibilities as well. And in terms of finding job opportunities, there's a lot of things that we can do, you know, in terms of the online space. There's a lot of things we can do there that can bring money. I think that's where we need to actually seek government's intervention to help us be able to make resources, make money out of those opportunities that are there. Let's get out of combat, attacking, opposing for the sake of it. And just to give my final remarks, I would like us to read 2 books, and they'll be able to give you perspective on what politics is about. They say politics is local, but politics is also very global, and it spins down to local. Read a book called The Confessions of an Economic Hitman. You'll be able to understand what Trump is doing now and how it can come and impact you up to your street protests, because those things happen, you know. Sometimes manipulation is not from Ukundani. Also read World on Fire by Emi Chua. These are books written from very personal experiences that will open your mind a bit more and even help you question how human beings behave and how they manipulate us. So let's not just jump into things as young people because it's fire, it's fine, you know, it gives you that excitement for the moment. Let's be careful because we want you in the future. You're the future of this country. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for Madam. Mwalimu, as we close this conversation and as you give us your final remark, most of the young people here have agreed with your thinking that the protests were hijacked. But they have also enumerated the things that led them to the protest. For example, someone said that they read the finance bill and said, okay, we are being overtaxed. Yeah.
Let me also tell you one thing about that finance bill that you read. First of all, do you think if you read it in your house in the evening, you'll wake up tomorrow and go to the streets? Somebody must mobilize you. Number two, when President Uhuru Kenyatta got into power, the previous budget was 1.6 trillion. His immediate first budget went to 1.85 trillion. It followed that there were taxes that were increased. And nobody talked about it, nobody thought of going to the streets. Because there has to be a yardstick which we measure things. Finally, but very important, the people who sent you to the streets read for you two chapters of the Constitution. Article 1, the sovereign power belongs to the people. They can exercise either directly or through their elected representatives, and it mandates that it can only be exercised according to this Constitution, giving supremacy to the law. That bit, according to this Constitution and giving supremacy to the law, was never read for you. Martha Karua only read for you directly or elected representatives. But is there a law telling you how you can do it directly? Because going to the streets, even if you are 1 million people, does not give you the power to overthrow a government elected by 7 million people. So how do you do it directly? This is what they have never explained to you even as we are sitting here. The direct use of your sovereign power is during a referendum and when you elect those representatives. That is direct. Kura yako, what you want. But there is nowhere, because how you employ it must give supremacy to the law, to the Constitution, not even just the law, the Constitution. There are nowhere in that Constitution where it is said when you use Article 37 to go to the streets, it is to change anything. It is to protest so that the government knows this is what you don't want and this is what you want. Even that Article 37, when they read it for you, they were only reading it for you to know that it is your right to go to the streets. But they refused to read for you how you should go to the streets, because they would have loved to see you die in the streets, raise emotions, and overthrow the government of the day. The groups I have met, I have always told them, politicians have killed their own family members to achieve their political ends, to remove somebody in power, to get elected to an office. That is how far they can go. There was a gentleman called Denzel who died. We found him in the quarry the following day. The public concluded that it is the government. So we must have been having a very petty government, because there are even bigger people to eliminate. But something curious happened. This Denzel trended the whole day before his death with another lady. Do you think that trending was organic? It wasn't. He was already prepared for the death because they wanted to raise emotions.
Social media.
So go and read. The law is written in English. Johan is a lawyer, but the law is written. Go and read Article 1 and think through by yourself. How do you think this direct use of is going to be done? Go and read it. Because there are people who read the law selectively, leaving out certain key parts to use to manipulate you. And as you read everything else political, if you're enjoying politics, read a lot in propaganda. Read a lot. And then you will begin to see this happened, but this was propaganda. This wasn't. This was. And then
you will be able to understand the politician how he behaves. Because some of them we have today, this is not what they said before 2022. They said a completely opposite things. But the logic with which they say it today makes you believe them now the same way you believe them then. Thank you.
A round of applause for one.
Something.
Yeah, sure.
Just reminded me about a lot of things. And specifically in that, exercising your right directly. Okay, you've gone to protest. Then what? You breached parliament. Then what? And I think that's the question he's asking. You can only behave in a civil way by giving a petition. That's why demonstration at the end of it should have a petition, something written. We have a problem, and this is how we think we need to solve it. You can, because now, okay, you've gone to the streets, you've breached parliament, maybe you're thinking about breaching State House, and we are complaining that, oh, we are being killed, because you're also behaving uncivilly. We have a law that is supposed to organize us, to make us civil people. So you breach parliament, then what? That's the question I think Salim is asking you to think about. Yeah.
A round of applause for our panelists. Well, thank you so much. We have been live here in Nairobi, of course, discussing about the country's political undertones in the country. And this has been a Gen Z production, face to face with the Gen Z, as we call it here. A conversation that brings together the young generation and the experience, where we fight in the marketplace of ideas, and of course, persuading each and every one of us to our very thought. Emmanuel Ouma is my name, and until next time, we'll be able to meet on this particular platform again next Saturday. Same place, same time.